I really want to thank all of you for helping to set the foundation of this event. And now we're going to have a discussion. There were some questions in the chat, but it looks like you guys answered them as you were going along. So thank you for that. And these questions are still foundational questions, but hopefully they build upon everything that we have just heard from everybody. So many careers are built by focusing on the next opportunity. Looking back, what foundation proved to be far more important than you realized at the time?
When I got out of college, a friend of mine bought a printing company, and she said, I'm so eager to get going on this, and I don't have time to go to the trainings at the company that she bought a franchise, and they had this great training. She said, would you go and do this and just come back and tell me everything? So I'm like, sure. She paid me to do it. And so I learned about finances, super helpful, learned about all these different things. The number one thing, though, was sales. Mm-hmm. And when you know how to do sales, a lot of the fear about the business world goes away. You understand your customers, you understand yourself, you understand what you have to do every day. You have to just get past that awkwardness. And so learning sales early in your career and having a chance to practice it, super helpful.
I totally agree. Like, +1 to Sandy, sales is boot camp for everything you do in life, professionally. So kind of similar to that, I've got two quick things. One is be the one in the room who asks all the annoying questions. Yeah, because one, you'll get more answers and more clarity and be able to do your job easier. And then it's sort of like propinquity. It's just sort of like people hear you more, so they're going to have you top of mind. So that's one way to sell yourself, even if you don't have any knowledge or value to add. Just ask a bunch of questions until somebody tells you to stop. No. And then I think the second thing that I was surprised was such a rare skill is knowing how to run meetings. So go take like a facilitation 101, because even if you're junior in your career and you don't call the meeting or you don't lead the meeting, if you understand the basic functions of naming a purpose and setting an agenda and taking meeting minutes and how to structure things and how to navigate interruptions, like gold for life. Like applies at family reunions.
Excellent. Mila?
Yeah, and then I just want to add, sales has been foundational. It helps you to communicate your value, communicate with your target audience. So sales is hands down a core skill to have. And to add to Theresa, that curiosity will take you so far. So you have to be curious and you have to know how to facilitate. Even if you're not even if you're not hosting an event, moderating events has opened up so many opportunities for me. And what I would like to add is a little bit less practical, but I would just say it's as simple as having a growth mindset, being open to just taking on opportunities, getting that experience, and don't be so uptight about everything. Treat everything like a learning experience, and you'll grow.
I love it. Early in my career, I was taught never say no under any circumstances. Do not say no. Just say, I'll check on that and get right back to you. Good. You might not have any idea what's going on, but no one's going to think you're a moron. No one's going to think you don't know what your job is. You just very calmly say that and then walk back to your office and freak out privately. The other one was something that I really wish I learned early on, that when I finally did learn it, I never let it go, which is literally measure twice, cut once. That is a very good one that for me goes to my foundation of patience, right? Faster is not always better. As a matter of fact, faster sometimes can get you into a lot of trouble. So we often think of investments as financial, but careers are built through many kinds of investments. Which investment has produced the greatest return on your career?
I would say relationships. It has been it's a different type of investment to be able to go to your phone and call somebody and be able to get anything you need. So relationships has been my biggest investment so far.
That's a great one. Sandy?
For me, I always try to, whenever I have a new job or a new situation, I try to get into the decision makers' inner circle. So sometimes when you don't have like management access or whatever, you can volunteer. I write about that a lot on Print Media Center. Anything you can do to spend some time and effort to get closer to the decision makers. You get to see how companies are run from the other side. Certainly it hedges your bets when way off time comes around. That's strategic, but just really understanding how the company runs from the inside, and you only get that either, moving into management or volunteering, like I say, is just super helpful.
Yeah.
Teresa?
I want to yes and Jamila with just like slightly more specificity. Invest in relationships with people who are different than you, who don't think of the work, the industry, the world, the same way that you do. And part of that is like just get really comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yeah, I think that's the people you're around and the types of conversations that you're willing to have. So diversity and discomfort, I think.
I am going to chime in on this one and say that the biggest investment I've made in my career is in myself, to learn new things, to put myself in uncomfortable situations, to say yes to everything, even when I was not ready to do it, and to really look before I leaped in order to unfortunately see what was going to happen. And then once something happened, I could control how I reacted to it. I could take up another speaking assignment. I could write another blog for something. But if I didn't invest in that, if we want to call it uncomfortableness, which is exactly what it is, I invested in pushing myself out of my own comfort zone, which is the first step to that is recognizing you're in a comfort zone. The other way to realize when it's time to move out of it is when you start saying things like this. Why does this always happen to me? Why does it always happen to you? Because you are creating it to happen to you. So that is actually the hardest lesson I had to learn in all of that.
Yeah.
Okay. A strong foundation can support many different careers, strategies, and opportunities over time, but there are moments when the structure you've built on that foundation no longer serves you. How do you recognize when it's time to stop renovating, tear it down, and build something new?
So I would say that I've pivoted many times in my very short life, but I would say that it becomes a time where the box that you're trying to fit into, it just doesn't work anymore. And it's been times where I tried to force it and I tried to hold on to it, and it's just like, it's not working. So at that moment, that's when I would go back to the drawing board and I would take a step away and say, what do I really want? What's my end goal? What do I want out of this? What do I want out of my life? And what opportunities and what is my environment trying to tell me? And that's actually what built my business. Was I was working in my old career and I just kept finding that point of I just could not grow. And I had to go back and figure out what are the skills here? what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, and I built a business that played into that.
Yeah. Mine's kind of like create enough space so you can like hear what the universe is nudging you towards. And I don't mean that in, too woo-woo of a way. I feel like your life just, if you're paying attention, you will start to see the breadcrumbs. Even if they're going down a really weird trail. So right now, I feel like I'm squarely in my purpose and everything I'm doing, I want to continue doing. But also, death doula work keeps coming up in my life. And I'm like, well, that feels uncomfortable to me. It doesn't feel like it aligns with what I'm doing now. But my professional coach was like, just organically follow the breadcrumbs. Don't try and force it, but just see where it goes. So I think just being willing to listen to that and believing that whatever comes to you is for your good. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, mine is just super tangible. I was in my 20s and I loved what I did. I loved my job. I super loved it. I didn't love what the day-to-day reality looked like, and I didn't know that until I started saying, why is this not working for me? My office was in an open office, super noisy. I had about 30 people that I managed, and they were very great people, but they were always interrupting me, which was fine. That was the way the job was structured. But when I moved to my next job, I said, okay, I like that work, but I don't want to manage so many people. I want an office where I can shut the door and get work done. I want to have more control over my day. And just even, as you're building your career, just saying, what do I want my day to day to look like, and what are I wouldn't call those my weaknesses, but just saying, how can I do this in a way that builds on what I do best, and not orient myself to jobs where I won't be happy just because of what that day to day looks like.
And it's so important what you just said about building upon what you want to come next. And that's really what I meant by this question. You might face a time where you can't be a traveling bartender anymore. I'm sorry, Jamila, we're all obsessed with that right now. But that doesn't mean that you have to throw out the whole foundation. Your people skills are still there. So when I look at the foundation of things, and is it time to tear it down? Is it try to start something new? I first look and see how much of the foundation I can take with me, because I don't want to build it again. So what are the skills I have? How do they translate to other things? How can these skills that maybe I don't use all the time, maybe I have to go back, as the metaphor I used of the coal, and say, okay, I haven't done, a lot of this lately. Let me go back over there and do it, so I can start sparking that up, like what you said about Twitter and LinkedIn. I had to do the same thing. I abandoned over 20,000 connections over there because I did not want my information in the current ecosphere there. Research suggests that it takes an average of about 2 months of consistent repetition before a behavior becomes a habit. What habits have kept you grounded through periods of growth and change? Theresa?
Yes, mine is easy. Journaling. I feel like people say it a lot, like, oh, meditating, journaling. But I started using kind of the artist's way, if anybody's familiar with that resource, which is very good. And it is fascinating to get familiar with your own voice when you are just writing for yourself. So right now in my office, I probably have 40 notebooks of religious journaling. And then I get all woo-woo and pull up the astrology, and it'll be like, look and see what you were doing 12 years ago because Jupiter's doing whatever. And it's just fun to look back at what I was saying to myself 7 years ago and being like, wow, that's still true. Oh, I should have broken up with him a while ago. Like, oh, I should have ditched that job a while ago, I guess is the more appropriate thing to say here. But yeah, journal. Yeah.
Excellent. Sandy?
Well, for me, it's setting up repeatable systems and looking at your days and your weeks in advance. So I have one sheet. It's got 10 days in advance. I know what I'm going to be doing every day. Try to reduce decision making that we're making on a repeated basis. Kind of get a framework for what your decisions look like so that you're not starting at the beginning of a decision. You can just pop that into your, how you tend to make decisions much quicker. And just try to be organized and not be surprised by things. That one sheet really helps with that.
Jamila?
Yeah. And then I just want to actually piggyback on what Theresa said. Journaling is one things that I do. My version of it is a brain dump. I'll pick up my phone and start a voice memo and just yap. So that's something that has allowed me to get my thoughts out, clear my mind. And a lot of my content starts with a big old brain dump. And if I wanted to add anything else, I would say intentionally spending time with myself. Like, one of my favorite things to do is garden, and that really grinds me and brings me peace. And working out, moving my body, just picking little pockets and corners of the day to just do things that I like to do.
Excellent. Theresa, you reminded me and so many other people of the artist's way. I had totally forgot that the chat is very excited about that. Okay, some parts of your career can be accelerated. Others simply take time. What do you believe cannot be rushed, no matter how ambitious somebody is? We ask the tough questions here, Theresa.
I have something there. Just creating, that is something to me that just cannot be rushed. I have all of these ideas, but to build those ideas, it takes time. It takes a process that you have to go through. The seasons. You have to go through the seasons, and you have to plant those seeds and build and create and grow and think. So, and you have to have the space to do that. So I would say building and creating anything, it can't be rushed.
Love it. Theresa?
Yeah, I think I've kind of a broad answer as well. And that's just, you can't rush the conversion of knowledge to wisdom. So I used to be very guilty of, I listened to this book, I read the book, listened to the podcast, and now I can teach a course on it. As opposed to having that experiential understanding of how that knowledge applies in life.
Excellent. Sandy?
I would say building trust is a process that you have to honor the time that takes. And when you're trying to build that process, you don't overpromise. You do what you say you're going to do. You don't try to rush that because people can sense that and it can backfire. So just, take the time to do it right.
I actually, my answer was about time as well. There's a time and a place. I at any moment in time have 5 ideas in my back pocket that I am waiting for the right person to come along and wants to do something crazy and has a budget. Those two things have to work together. But I know not to pull them out unless I'm in the right company, because otherwise people just think I'm crazy and I want to do elaborate things, instead of it being the person who gets it the minute I say it. And because I don't have that foundation of sales, I actually need people to come to me or already be predispositioned to saying yes to one of my ideas, and then I can pull something out that, I have been saving for that moment. Okay, last question before we start our lunchtime activities. Fill in the blank. Strong careers are built on.
All right, I'm going to jump in. You can probably guess this from how I talk about everything, which is planning. Don't leave it to chance. I always say run scenarios and flow them out to their logical conclusion. Make strong decisions that are well informed. Plan your career the way you plan everything in life.
Mm-hmm. I
Theresa?
love that, Sandy. Yeah, I think embracing your weird, like finding the thing that's really easy for you that seems to be hard for everybody else. And when you find that thing, don't be small, you know?
Love, don't be small.
Yeah.
Jamila?
I would say strong careers are built on curiosity, just asking why and always probing and getting that extra piece of information.
And I would answer that strong careers are built on a belief in yourself, whatever that means. It could mean, okay, I'm going to get through the next thing because there's craziness going here, or it could be that I believe I can do this even though I've never done it. And, we call that confidence as well, which is what Kelly also said in the chat. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us for the Earth session and for your sessions and for the panel. And we will be back for our lunchtime activity in 3 minutes. Thank you, everybody.